call it preseason, but I'm hyped. Neil Thought, Jimmy G, buckets, gets buckets. Oh my goodness, give me the hot sauce, Neil Thought, give me the hot sauce. What are you doing, Dragic? Did you not get the memo? Derrick Rose can go upstairs.
It is time for a brand new episode of the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast, and for all of you watching on YouTube, the man is back, the star of the show, Stacey King, back in studio. We missed you, Stacey. It's been a long time. How you feeling?
You know what, Mark? It's great to be back. You know, coming back into the Sriracha studios, seeing the team. You know, I've been out for about 5-6 weeks, and I just feel invigorated. You know, the energy is back in the building. You know,
one more week, it was going to be the Tim and Mark show. We were there.
Listen. It would never been the Tim show. It would been the Mark show. Okay, Mark would have been doing this by himself. You're about one biscuit away from being thrown out of here, buddy. After all those smart ass comments you did since I've been gone.
That is true.
Yeah,
I'm
good. Back now.
Good to see Stacey feeling well again, and you guys were out in the town yesterday. I guess my invitation got lost in the mail somewhere.
Hey, well, you know me. I don't invite anybody
I
anywhere.
know. So you had a Stacey and a driver and the whole bit, the Windy City limo service?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Thanks a lot, man.
Buffet,
You know
the whole
that.
deal.
You know what? It was a great event. You know, Avant. We went over there. We did a little public speaking over there to the workers there. Let me just tell you. Let me just say this first, okay? Before we even get to the thing, okay? So, I talked to Tim at 9 in the morning. Okay, Tim set all this up. He's my little PR guy. He sets up my little personal appearances when it comes to the hot sauce and stuff. So, it calls me at 9 in the morning. Say, hey, you ready to go to today? You know, today's a big day. I said, okay. So I said, all right, Tim. So, Mike's going to be here at 4:15.
Yeah. I
need you to be here at 4 o'clock. Okay, be here at 4 o'clock sharp. Oh, I got you. Oh, no problem. But I thought we were supposed to be at 5. I said, no, 4 o'clock. The guys, you know, Aaron sent me the email. Be here at 4, but even at 4:15. Got to get down to the city in traffic. Lo and behold, late.
Oh, no.
I looked back at his text, and he said 5 o'clock. So
he went back and he didn't listen to what I told him. I told him to be there at 4 o'clock. He didn't get there till almost 5:30.
Yeah,
oh, no.
And you know what?
Work gets in the way of all my fun.
And you know what? And the funny thing about it is he's a good friend of Aaron Christensen. So the guy who is our friend too. He played on our softball team. Was terrible, by the way. No, I'm just playing. Aaron was great. Aaron was a good softball player. He struck out. I don't know how many people can strike out in slow pitch softball, but he's one of those guys that struck out a couple of times with bases loaded, and then he had to go sit on the other team's bench.
Yep.
You know, that guy.
He's with us.
Yeah, he's that guy. But he told us he could play, and we put him on our our Diamond Kings. You know, we were multiple champions in the Buffalo Grove softball league. We won like 3 championships. Before that, we was getting our butts kicked because we had a bunch of old guys that kept pulling muscles and tearing knees and stuff. So I fired all those people, and I went out and got my boys. Shout out to the DeVici brothers, okay?
Oh,
the
yeah.
DeVici brothers. They played baseball over at Trinity, big time studs, shortstops, outfield. Timmy, Brian. I'm telling you, they oh my goodness, Todd. They came out there, man, and we didn't lose a game. We back-to-back championships.
Yeah.
And I went out like a champion. I retired the Diamond Kings as a champion.
Yeah, they turned more doubles than your driver, Mike.
Oh, wow. Wow. You know what, Mike, speaking of
I know
Mike,
he's listening.
Speaking of Mike did a good job getting us to and from the event yesterday. I'd never been up to that, that 167, Fulton Street. I'd never been up there. That basketball court in the sky. I'm going to tell you something, America. If you've never been up there, because I always see it on Instagram. I'm like, where is this place where they're playing basketball in a high-rise? That's pretty cool. And so finally got a chance to see it, and I was blown away by just what it looks like. It's a beautiful court. The view is, you got view all around the place. Everything is nice. Have you ever been up there, Mark?
No, have not.
Man, you got to go up there, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if you need a pass because when we walked in, it's like high-tech security trying to get in there. I'm like, it's like, wasn't it?
And the gates started to close on you. Like,
Oh,
hey,
man,
put his crutches on.
Yeah,
and then the elevator tried to close on you.
Yeah, the elevator tried to close on me. I got up there, and we had to have special clearance. People, you can't even just hit a button to get on the elevator. Somebody's got to walk by and just wave their hand or something, and the elevator comes. It's pretty cool, though. They got a nice little bar there. We had a really good time, a lot of fun. That's the first time I've been up there. Like I said, I seen it on Instagram. And it is, if you haven't been up there, go check it out. That whole area downtown is really nice. It used to be, we were talking, Oprah Winfrey's Harpo Studios used to be there. Was one of the first things down there. A lot of the meat packaging things down there. It was really a tough area. Now it's like, man, it's got so many shops and restaurants, unbelievable.
Since we're doing shout-outs, my good friend Bob Ward is affiliated with the Basketball Museum of Illinois. It's in the Wintrust Sports Complex in Bedford Park. It's only been around for a couple of years, and you think about the rich history of Illinois basketball, high school, college, and professional. Brand new exhibits, so if you get some time this summer before the kids go back to school, check it out. As I said, Wintrust Sports Complex in Bedford Park. Hey, the business of basketball is almost done for this offseason. Most of the teams have made their free agent signings. We're still waiting to see when and if the Damian Lillard trade will go down. James Harden's still making noise about wanting to get traded from Philadelphia. But let's start by wrapping up what the Bulls have done in the offseason. Ayo Dosunmu, we talked about this last week, the fact that we didn't know what his status was. Well, a day later, he gets a 3-year contract from the Bulls, reportedly for about $21 million. And Stacey, the conjecture was that he would take the qualifying offer, which was about $5.2 million, but the Bulls obviously value him long-term to make that kind of a contract offer.
Well, I mean, listen, this is a guy that can start. He can come off the bench. The Bulls are really going to have a lock jam at guard position. I mean, they've got, again, for the second straight year, they're going to be guard heavy. You also got to factor in, health. Guys get hurt. Guys step in. Ayo has been a jack of all trades. He's a guy that can come in and start for you. He's a guy that defends. He's a guy that can pick up full court, bring you some energy off the bench. Very valuable. Could be in that Marcus Smart role where this is a guy that can play multiple positions because he's big enough to probably swing down and play some small forward if you really needed it. He's got to work on his three-point shooting, but that's going to come. Young players, he's a hard worker. I knew he was going to come back. I was a little nervous at first because it was getting really late in the season and you didn't hear anybody offer him anything. So I was a little concerned about that. But I had faith in AK because the bottom line is AK, that's his draft pick.
Right.
Patrick Williams is his draft pick. Ayo is his draft pick. These are guys that they went out and they did their homework on. They drafted him. They're not going to give up on him so quickly. And I'm expecting a big year from Patrick Williams. And I expect Ayo to come back and have that chip on his shoulder. Now he's going to probably have to come off the bench. He's going to have to compete for playing time. Kobe White got a new deal. You got, Javon Carter there. There is a lockjam at that guard position. Not to mention you still got Zach LaVine's going to get a lion's share at the 2-guard position.
Yeah, a lot of people are wondering how can you possibly play 5 guards in a rotation, but as we know, Billy likes to go with small ball lineups with 3 guards at a time. He'll use either DeMar DeRozan or Alex Caruso as a really undersized power forward at times. So Ayo's going to get his chance because they know he's a good defender and they know that he can create plays on the defensive end that maybe get you some baskets in transition.
Well, and what you're starting to see now, Mark, transitioning in the NBA game, because Denver now is showing you the blueprint, it's not about small ball anymore. Teams are now gearing up. If you watch this free agency, teams are gearing up, getting size now. When you looked at that NBA Finals against Miami and Denver, Miami was super small. And to be able to compete the way they did with that such small lineup, there was no way in the world that they would be able to really compete for a 7-game series because they were just outmatched. And with Jokic being there, so you see the Lakers have gotten bigger. You've got Minnesota, who's a dark horse that I think people tend to forget. You've got Towns, who's going to be healthy. You got Anthony Edwards, who's getting ready to take that next step to superstar level. I think he's the star of that team. You got Rudy Gobert, their size there. You got Sabonis, in Sacramento. Teams are starting. I mean, Bol and Phoenix has got some size now. Houston's got some size. They're starting to change the narrative a little bit about small ball. And you go in there with a small ball team. You can get away in 82 game playing small ball, Mark. Trying to turn up the tempo a little bit. But in the playoffs, when it becomes a half-court game, small ball is not going to work. And you saw in Miami.
The Bulls have signed a couple of guys to 2-way contracts, some front court players. You've got Adama Sanogo, who was the most outstanding player in the NCAA tournament as Connecticut went on to win the title. You've also got Justin Lewis, who unfortunately turned his ankle after one game in Summer League, but he's a guy I know that Stacey likes. And then this year you can sign 3 guys to 2-way contracts. So with the final 2-way that we thought might go to Javon Freeman Liberty, instead they're bringing in a kid from Turkey, a 6'6" swing guard forward. His name is Onural Batim. And you see some of the highlights of this kid, 360 dunks. He can shoot threes.
I'm going to tell you something. He's going to be on the roster.
Think so? Yeah.
He's going to be on the roster because he can shoot the ball. He's tough. He reminds you of Andres Nocioni.
Oh, that's a great comparison, yeah.
Bulls fans, if you don't remember, because we had so many Bulls players since, Go back and look at Andres Nocioni. He plays just like him. He can shoot the basketball. He can put the ball on the floor. He's much more athletic than people think. You know, you saw some of the highlights. He's doing 360s on the break.
Yeah.
You know, and he's a tough kid. You know, he's a tough kid. That
he's only 24 too.
That Turkish league is very tough. You know, that's what you're seeing the Bulls. You know, when they talked about running it back, you kept your core group. Okay, you got Zach, you got DeMar, you got Vooch, you got Kobe, you got Patrick Williams. You know, you got your top 6 or 7 guys. You know, Caruso's in that group, so you got your top 6 or 7 guys. And what AK has done and what he's trying to do with this team, and that's what he's trying to get the fans to understand. You know, we talked about continuity. We're talking about culture. You know, he's trying to build around the core group of guys. He's brought guys in here that are tough, multiple position type of players. Torrey Craig is an underrated two-way player in this game. He can shoot the 3, he can defend. Javon Carter, if you don't know Javon Carter, just go back and look at some highlights in Milwaukee. Go back when he was in West Virginia. He was a defensive player of the year in college basketball, consistent like 2 years in a row. The kid plays hard. He's shooting 40% from the three-point line. They have surrounded their core group with really tough kids. You know, Phillips is a tough kid. You know, you got Justin Lewis is another tough kid. Dalen Terry's. I don't know where his role is going to be, but they got to find a role. Now, I keep saying this. The key is, and you got Andre Drummond. The key is Billy's got to play these guys. Right. Billy's got to develop these guys and not so much rely on, you know, their big 3 every single night. Now, if you're Billy Donovan and you're talking, you really want to get this team going to the right level and be competitive and be a team that could be a top 5 team in the East, because any team that trots out 3 All-Stars, maybe, you know, count Vooch as a former All-Star, you're trotting out 3 guys. You got Zach LaVine, DeRozan, and Vooch. Those guys right there should guarantee you 35 to 40-plus wins just after those 3 guys with the veteran leadership and the ability to put the ball in the basket if they stay healthy. Now you got Kobe White, who's now developing into a nice player. Patrick Williams, I expect to take the big step this year. Billy's got to get the ball in his hands. Billy's got to incorporate plays for him to be able to grow and not be in the shadows watching everybody else and then, you know, picking and choosing when those guys are out the lineup. You know, he plays like an all-star. He's got to play like an all-star caliber player. He's got to show that he deserves to be in the rotation. He's got to show that he needs to have plays run for him. And I think if he does that, that's going to take them to the next level. But the conversation Billy needs to have with his 3 superstar players is we're only going to go as far as you take us. And that means not about scoring. You're going to have to commit on the defensive end. Zach, you're going to have to turn your defense up. I know you're not going to be on the all defensive team. You're not going to be a defensive stopper, but an effort every single night to neutralize the other 2 guard on the other team, because, you know, I just saw where Bradley Beal was talking about he wants to get back to that elite level of being a two-way player. He's kind of gotten away from that in Washington because they needed him to score so much. But on Phoenix, he wants to get back to being on the all-defensive team. And this is an all-star caliber player that puts up 25, 30 points a game. DeMar, effort on defense. Vooch, effort on defense. You got to get those 3 guys playing as hard as they can on both ends to give yourself a chance to be able to make something happen in the postseason.
Well, apparently the national analysts are not convinced that the Bulls are going to be
Who cares?
This season. We talked about last week the over-under win totals was at like 37.5. Today, ESPN unveiled their power rankings, which mean nothing in late July. They had the Bulls 22nd. They had the Bulls behind Utah and Indiana. So no respect for the Bulls right now.
Listen, well, you know what? That's motivation. If I'm Billy Donovan, I'm putting that all in the locker room. It's going to be in the locker room. It's going to be when we walk out on the floor. I'm going to constantly remind you of this is what they think of you. This is what the national audience thinks of you. You're a much better team than this. You know, you guys got to go out here every single night and you got to prove it. And, you know, they got to show that they deserve to have this team run back, basically. You know, AK, Mark Eversley, JJ Polk, they believe in this team. You owe it to them to go out there and compete and play hard and do the best job you can and try to get to the playoffs and try to not be a play-in team. This is not a play-in team. This is a team that should be competing in the playoffs and being able to get in, locked in, secure in some kind of playoff spot, not a play-in.
We can't wait for the start of training camp. It's still about 2 months away. The Bulls will have Media Day on October 2nd and then start training camp. So
it's coming fast.
Yeah, it does.
It's coming fast. Where did the summer go, man?
Goes by too quickly. Hey, when it comes to insurance for your auto, home, and business, make sure you contact the King of Insurance, our good buddy, nationwide agent Jeff Vukovich. You can reach him at jeffvuk.com. That's jeffvuk.com. He's a big fan of all the Chicago sports teams. He's always there supporting the Bulls, the Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox, and Bears. You can see him at the United Center at games. And he has the best jingle in the business, sung by our guy, Stacey King.
1, 2, 1, 2. Nationwide is on your side.
Very nice, very nice. Stacey live and in person back in the studio. We're glad to have him here today.
That was pretty damn good.
Let's talk about some other NBA business. The big story nationally, Jaylen Brown signs the richest contract in NBA history. He gets a Supermax deal from the Celtics. $304 million over 5 years. The last year of that deal will be like $69 million. Now, Jaylen Brown's a good player. I think he was second team All-NBA, averaged 26 points a game, a very good player. But for him to be the guy that has got the richest contract in NBA history, I guess they had no other choice. I mean, that's the cost of doing business right now.
Man, listen, I'm not saying, get your money while you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm always going to be for the players to get the maximum contract. But there's got to be some kind of way to kind of turn this down, because not saying he's not worth $304 million, but if he's worth $304 million, what is Jokic worth? Right. What is Giannis going to be worth when they come up for their contract deals and they're just getting into their prime? You know, you're looking at 500. What is Luka going to be worth, in a few years when he becomes, evolves as one of the best players in the game? You look at Zach's contract. Everybody was complaining about Zach. Zach got overpaid. Yeah, okay. Now look at his contract. I go back a few years ago to Mike Conley when Mike Conley signed that big deal in Utah. I think that was the highest contract signed at that point. It was like $153 million over 5 or 6 years, and this just good for Jaylen Brown though. I mean, hey, he's a good player. I thought they would try to move one of those guys. I thought it'd be him, but they're going to go with those guys. Now you can't trade him because you got a trade kicker in there. He can't go nowhere. The only person you can trade now is Tatum. So, and he's not going anywhere anytime soon. But
wow,
with that contract comes big expectations from people. And Boston's a tough city. And if you come out there and have bad games and you're not playing like they want you to play, woo.
The competition for banner number 18 right now, the Lakers and Celtics tied with 17 all time. And Stacey not only is back in studio, he did some homework. I mean, he's preparing for this show. He's got tiers of star players, and kind of reflecting on where everybody fits after this $300 million contract for Jaylen Brown. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can follow along with the graphics. We'll try to talk you through it for those just listening on the audio podcast. So in tier 1, these guys obviously are going to exceed what Jaylen Brown got eventually.
Well, and just for the audience to understand what we're doing here is the fact that the contracts have gotten so astronomical. It's like, what if the NBA decided to make a tier system? And so when you make a tier system, the top 10 players make the most money based on it'd be hard to do. You'd have to get stats and, what they mean to their team, how available they are. Do they play 70, 80 games? It's not just their numbers and points averaging. So when you look at the top tier, the top players, these are the top 10 players in the league. This, I would think, would be your top tier players if you had a tier system. So you got Giannis, Jokic, Steph Curry, Embiid, Luka, LeBron, and LeBron really could be in tier 2 because he's down on the side,
But just the value he brings to your franchise.
Yeah, but the value he brings to the franchise keeps him there. You got Jason Tatum. You got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's been coming along the last 2 years. Kevin Durant is an elite player, and Dame. These guys should be your highest paid players in the game. Now, there could be an argument. You can slide a guy up. You see tier 2. You got Ja Morant. You got Jaylen Brown. You got Devin Booker, Jimmy Butler, Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis, Kawhi Leonard. You could slide, one guy down, one guy up if you really want to. This is just a quick tier. So when that first tier, let's say the first tier, their salary is set at, let's say, $250 million. They can't make more than $250 million. Then the second tier guys would go under $250 million. And then you'd have your third tier guy go under that. And then you just have a legit tier system, and people are paid based off of, their production. It's like people will say, "Where's Zion? Where's Zion Williamson? Why is he not on a tier 1 or tier 2?" Well, he's not available.
Right.
You know, the guy plays 50 games a year.
Wouldn't the Players Association fight that kind of structure?
Yeah, they would, because they're always going to want the most money for their players.
Right.
And you would expect that. But it would be interesting to see how, like, anybody watching this and listeners, you're watching this on YouTube, make you a tier, honestly, because it's really hard when you look at the top players in this game. You could name 5 right off the bat. You could say, Giannis, Jokic, Steph Curry, Embiid, Tatum. And then after 5, you got to start really, really looking and saying, who would be the 6? Who would be the 7? And it gets really, really difficult. And you go down and you look at all these tiers. These are all great players. Go move it down a little bit, guys. These are all great players. You got, people, I know Bulls fans like, where are our Bulls players? I got DeMar DeRozan in my 3rd tier.
Right.
Okay. And he's a guy that's available. He's a guy that shows up every night. He's going to play 70+ games a year. So I'd have him on my tier 3, and whatever that salary is, you see Halliburton there, you see Anthony Edwards, and this is not all set in stone. Like, this is not going to be the end all be all, because guys will move up as their production moves up. So you might have a guy in tier 3, like, say, let's just use, De'Aaron Fox, who's in the tier 3. He goes up because his production, let's say he makes all NBA. Now he may go up to tier 2. A James Harden, whose numbers go down, and he's not affecting wins and he's affecting losses. He may go down from tier 3 to tier 4, and someone else may go up. So you're always going to have constant movement. It'd be interesting to see, Mark, how they would do it. But you can see how interesting it is just doing it, and trying to pick the best, the top 40 or 50 players in the game, and then trying to put them in a tier. It's very difficult.
Did you see the comments from Austin Rivers earlier this week on a podcast
Yes.
where he said that the league has let things get out of control, where you're either making $50 million or $2 million, which is the veterans minimum, and all the guys in the middle are getting squeezed out, especially the older players.
Well, and this is what happens in the collective bargaining agreement. The players agreed to that, and this is very similar to what happened like 20, 25, 30 years ago, where you had guys, like Michael Jordan, underpaid. Not his market value, but then you get a guy like Larry Johnson gets $84 million for 6 years or whatever it was, and doesn't have half the accomplishments that Michael had. So it's the players agreed to it, so they got to live with that. But he has a point, and then also the owners have to get, in my opinion, back to being in control. The players basically are saying, trade me to where I want to go. Okay, it's funny because I love Dame. He's done a lot for Portland. I'm a big fan of Damian Lillard. But you weren't complaining when they gave you the $200 million.
Right.
Okay? Even though you weren't winning, you went to the Western Conference Finals one time. You didn't complain when they gave you all that money. Every year, every time it was contract negotiation, Portland, no hesitation. Give them the max. Okay? You weren't complaining then. You weren't talking about a trade then, because you easily could have said that. And now you start to see all these guys winning, and winning becomes important to certain guys at the end of their career. They want to win. Well, if that's the case, then you give the money back. Say, hey, here's the deal. I'm going to give all my money back. You just send me where I want to go. Right. How about that? Whatever's left of my contract, I'll give it back to you, and I'll go play. Because some people think, well, he gave it his all, and he should be able to go where he wants. No, because if it's not going to help Portland in the trade, why am I going to trade a star player, superstar player, and get scraps back? Right. You just put I'm losing a superstar player who, you're not
trading
only
a top tier player on your list,
exactly,
for a guy like Tyler Hero, who's a nice.
He's not even
player,
on the list. He may be on the bottom tier as a young
Yeah.
player, but I'm not getting anything that's going to help my franchise. I'm setting my franchise back 5 or 10 years, losing a player like that, because we may not ever get another player like Damian Lillard.
Right.
Okay, you can find a Tyler Hero. You can find a good shooter, but you're not going to find these generational talents. You're not going to find a Luka. You're not going to find a LeBron James. These guys are generational talents. Kevin Durant, Booker. You don't just give those players away. You got to get something in return, whether it's draft capital or whether it's really serviceable players, get a third team involved to get another superstar. Because I'm trading superstar for superstar. Sorry, you ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? You got a 5-year deal, $270 million. You might as well just go ahead and lace up the shoes, buddy, because you're going to play here until we get a deal that fits us and it's going to help our organization.
The other big story in basketball this week was the unfortunate story out of Los Angeles. Bronny James, the oldest son of LeBron James, suffered a cardiac arrest while he was practicing with his USC team, which was preparing for an overseas tour. In case you're not aware, college teams every 4 years get a chance to travel overseas, and Bronny, as an incoming freshman, was able to be part of that squad. And thank God that they had great medical staff on hand. They were able to get to him quickly and get him to the hospital, and he made a quick recovery. The news is great on Thursday. LeBron James issuing a statement that, everyone's great. Bronny is home, recovering. We don't know what his basketball future looks like, Stacey, but at this point, that's got to take a big back seat. You just want the young man to be okay and be able to live his life.
Well, it's just so shocking because, the kid is 18 years old. He looked like he was in prime shape. And, this happens. This just goes to show you, man, like, life is so precious,
right,
man. You gotta enjoy each and every day, man, and try to, get as much as you can out of every single day. And, here he is, he gets up in the morning and, that particular day probably says goodbye to his parents, kisses, his little sister. I'll see you later on this afternoon. No one knew that could have been his last day on this earth.
Right.
And had UFC not had good medical staff there, that might have been. If they didn't have, let's just say he was in an open gym and
sure,
there was no kind of medical help there, he could have been gone. So shout out to USC for having the personnel there to be able to, act very quickly and possibly saved his life.
And this isn't as rare as you might think.
No.
There are incidents like this reported on campuses, nationwide, and we think back to the tragic deaths of Hank Gathers and Reggie Lewis, and sometimes you don't get that warning. You're just taken.
It's one a day now.
Is that right?
Yeah, the average is one a day.
And these are young athletes, supremely physical conditioned, and yet this could strike. Think about DeMar Hamlin. That was kind of brought on by a blunt force trauma, but still, frightening nonetheless.
Well, and the thing is, the thing that you hate that you're starting to see is it becomes political. You got people talking about, oh, if he got the vaccination and isn't, and
right,
all these
right.
arguments back and forth, man. And just speculating what it was. Let the doctors tell you what it was. Let the news come out from the family of what happened to their son. Don't sit up here and make these arguments and arguing back and forth. It's the vaccination did it. That's what happened. You don't know that. You're not doctors.
Right.
People tend to jump on the bandwagon of politics and just stay out of that. Let the doctors let the family know what happened to the kid.
Yeah, and we send out our best to the James family. Hopefully, Bronny James is able to resume his career because he keeps getting better every year, and there's talk that he could be a guy that could maybe jump to the NBA after one season in college. Hey, Whispers, you still got that impression going strong, Christopher Walken? Can you sell some hot sauce for us?
Jeez.
I know it's an abrupt transition, but you should be ready for this. This is your time to shine.
This is your moment.
Yeah.
Let me bring
one
him in.
moment in time.
You're once in a lifetime.
He's really nervous right now. We scared him, Mark. You scared him.
I'm
You're
never
scared
nervous.
by a dog.
No, I'm never nervous. I'm always ready to sell some sauce. Just spice up your kitchen and use our codes. Nobody's using them. People keep ordering, and they're not using Walk-in Fire, not using Walk-in Q to get free bottles. And we got a lot.
Is there a walk-in code now?
It's been out, Mark. It's been weeks. Is anyone listening? So go to GimmeTheHotSauce.com and use one of those codes. Or if you forget, just use code KING21 for 21% off.
So the codes they get free hot sauce?
That's right, with any order.
Oh, damn. Y'all better wake up out there. You use free hot sauce, man. This hot sauce is hot right now, boy. It's doing well in Jewel, baby.
Flying off the shelves at your local Jewel Osco. So if you can't get it there, go to GimmeTheHotSauce.com. Tell them that Christopher Walken sent you.
Yes.
That's right.
Oh, my God.
Well, we built it up too much.
Yeah,
Sorry, folks.
Sorry,
America.
Hey, he really was scared. That's the first time he's sweating over here. He wasn't ready because he was not ready for that. You threw it to him. It was a fastball. He's looking for a fastball.
No, I was worried he was going to say, do it as Tyson. See, that's what throws me up.
No.
Nobody wants that, Tim.
No.
Nobody wants that.
You really would have got a throw punch.
Not the hot sauce today?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Something fucking cat. Put a cat.
There it is. You should do it.
No, it's terrible. I sound like Sylvester. or Tweety Bird. Or
Bingo.
Sylvester.
Sylvester. Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah, I'm not Tyson, man. I can't do Tyson. I ain't gonna lie. I can do a lot of voices. I can't do Tyson.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the start of football season. We're in the dead period for basketball, but it's never off our minds. So we got a special guest coming up who was the star of, you remember the AND1 mixtape tour, Grayson Boucher, known as the Professor, one of the biggest basketball wizards that we've ever seen in this world. You know, his artistry is unbelievable. We're going to talk to him next on Gimme the Hot Sauce. He's also doing some things, you know, creating some great videos. So that is coming up next. Grayson Boucher, our guest on Gimme the Hot Sauce. It is now our pleasure to welcome in one of the greatest basketball wizards you've ever seen in terms of handling the ball. He was the star of the AND1 mixtape tour. Now he's doing so many great videos on his own. Grayson Boucher, you probably better know him as the Professor. Professor, welcome in. You've been doing so much great work, both with AND1 and afterwards. You know, you're 39 years old now. How have you been able to maintain your skills and being able to make yourself marketable through all these different phases of your life?
Oh man, you know, I think a lot of it just comes with never stopping moving. You know what I mean? Like, even if you can't get a cardio workout in, even if you don't have a chance to get to the gym, I say, hey, just go for a run just to stay moving. So a lot of it has to do with movement. A lot of it has to do with training, and really just a love for the craft. You know, I try to always put in the time.
That's awesome. Talk a little bit, because, you know, I'm a big AND. We talked on the phone the other day. I'm a big AND1 fan. You know, I'm huge. I mean,
man.
Oh my gosh, he didn't know I was a big fan of his.
Yeah.
He was in shock that I was a fan of his. And I'm a huge fan.
For sure.
Tell our listeners about this story, because I don't think they realize how hard it was for you to come from where you come from to make that squad, and not just make that squad. You had to constantly try out almost on every couple of stops on the tour to earn your way on that officially. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, looking back with, you know, hindsight 2020 perspective viewpoint, it was super hard, right? To play against guys who were my idols and then last all the way through 35 cities and then, you know, get to the end. And I think the only reason I pulled it off is because I hit a game winner in Madison Square Garden to kind of solidify it. But then after that, the whole story of the show, the final episode was, all right, you can do it in the arenas and, you know, the commercial side of things, but can you do it in the hood? And then I had to go against one of my idols, Hot Sauce, in a showdown in a pickup run in Linden, New Jersey to try to seal the deal. So I think it was very hard, but the funny thing is I was just such a fan of the AND1 mixtape tour and so blown away that I even got to play with those guys, even for one game, much less a whole summer, that I was just having fun. I could have got sent home at any moment, and I was just happy to be there. So I think that, like, just my enjoyment of being there and, like, the gratitude played a big role, because I didn't feel the pressure of winning, because I was good whether if I would have played one game in my hometown the day I tried out, I played against the AND1 team. If I would have went home, that still would have been incredible to me.
Yeah, traveling around the country, I'm sure that you've run into different people who thought, well, I can defend this guy. You've embarrassed so many people, I'm sure, on courts nationwide. You got any stories about somebody getting really angry when you kind of dropped him on the ground with some of your ball handling moves?
Probably the craziest stories, the one people allude to a lot, is my most viewed YouTube videos, 83 million views. It was the first ever video I did with Trash Talker in the title, but that's like a big trend on YouTube now, right? Trash Talker. So I was the first one to come with that title because I didn't know what to call dude. Was it a heckler? Is he you can't say ish talker? I didn't want to curse in the title, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, he's a trash talker. He's talking trash. So I played dude, and in the edit, we told a whole story of why this game came about, because he was talking crazy as he was standing on the sidelines. And then he kind of like challenged to play me after I ended that game. So I was like, all right, let's get it. So we go to this one-on-one. There's like 50 people recording in the video, plus our cameras rolling. Towards the middle of the game, I actually crossed him over, went between his legs, snatched back. He hit the pavement like super hard. I didn't even touch him, right? No contact ankle breaker, you know? And then 2 plays later, I up-faked. I went between my legs, between his legs, and I snatched it back, and he broke his shoulder. He tried to reach for it. He threw his shoulder out of the socket, and the game had to end. You know what I'm saying? Like, it had to end right there, and it didn't even finish. And so we couldn't have wrote a better script, right? Talking all this crap. It came down to the game. We uploaded with an amazing title, thumbnail, story, it did 83 million views, but I think it did like 20 in a week or something like that.
Wow. Not only an ankle breaker, a shoulder breaker. Like,
Yeah,
you
shoulder
breaking brother's
breaker.
shoulders.
It's funny, you can hear me in the video too, because when he reaches, I think I even said it. I was like, look, dude threw his shoulder out of the socket, because I had a teammate who did that all the time. You know, if you get in the habit of doing that, you can do it really easily if you move too aggressively or something. So yeah, it was crazy how it happened, but that's the most memorable one for sure.
You know what's really cool is that, you know, AND1 was a culture. You guys started a lot of trendy things, you know, from the baggy shorts, the clothes. You know, y'all had the really sweet, the logo design was off the chain. I want to throw, you know, Tim will tell you, my boy Timmy Whispers, you know, we had that logo design. I think AND1 stole it from us.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we had that. I just want to throw that out there. But y'all repped it. Yeah, y'all repped it well. Tell our listeners, like, here you are. You come from Oregon. You're not from L.A. You're not from New York. You're not from a big city. And here you are. You show up. You get this information to try out for the AND1. You're a little white kid. There's no white guys on AND1. You're the only one that I've ever seen play. I've even heard they said you're the Eminem of AND1, because the Eminem is such a devastating rapper, such a good rapper. He doesn't get the credit he deserves because of his skin color. But you know, if you see his accomplishment, you know he can go with anybody. He can go with anybody. And it's the same thing with you. You show up, this little kid, probably weighed 170 pounds, you know, soaking wet, and you going up against all these inner city guys from New York City, California, wherever they're from, Atlanta, Georgia, and you got to make this team. You got to show these guys and prove that you can play on that. Talk a little bit about that.
For sure, man. I feel like with basketball, for me, it's always a super personal matchup. You know what I mean? Because nobody wants to get made look a fool by the white guy.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's always a proving ground, though. You know, I feel like what you just said is actually right. I've been called the Eminem of basketball like my whole life, but also, you know, even before I got on AND1, I was definitely the underdog then. But even now, it don't matter where you go in America. Basketball is like the highest confident, highest ego sport. We can always find somebody who think, I go to high school, somebody on there thinks they can beat me one-on-one for sure. And so I feel like no matter what, it's always a proving ground, and the game gets extra physical, but I think it's also made me better, because I had to always I feel like there's that saying, you're only as good as your last game, which isn't necessarily always true, but I think, you know, as people magnify your career, it is. So I still, to this day, I look at every time I take to the court, it's like, you as good as this last game. So leave it all on the court. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's kind of how I approach it. But I think that's how I was able to make AND1. And then obviously playing with the big bros, shout out to the AND1 legends, you know, ex-teammates, you know, that made me a lot better too. So yeah, it's always a proving ground.
You've played a lot of celebrities like Woody Harrelson and Adam Sandler. Who's the best celebrity you've played up against?
Oh, yeah. Best celebrity ever played against? Probably Chris Brown, I'd say. Probably Chris Brown.
Yeah, he can hoop. He can hoop.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd give it to him. You know, he actually played like the Drew League. Not saying he was like a Drew League star, but you know, if you can fit a slot in the Drew League and start on the teams, it says something, right? Because a lot of celebrities, just being honest, you know, they'll say like they're good. You know, they're like LA Fitness, you know, LA Fitness.
Like Tim.
finest.
Yeah, well, hey.
There you go.
Tim's like that. He's a weekend warrior at a health club.
And hey, you know, respect. I'm not an elitist when it comes to basketball. I respect all levels, and I can even show love to people who are very good at the game. I think it's fun at every level. But as far as celebrities being able to hoop, yeah, I'd say like Chris. I'm sure there's somebody I'm forgetting too, but that's what stands out to me.
You know, you've really brought a lot of creativity beyond AND1. You know, after that tour stopped, you've come up with some great videos on YouTube, the whole superhero thing. I mean, do you have a team around you that you bounce ideas off of and try to come up with new concepts that can be successful in your YouTube channel?
Oh, for sure. For sure. You know, for years, the head of media was actually my cousin. Big shout out to my cousin, Zach. We came up with every idea from 2017 up until recently. And then before that, I had this homie, Rob Monroe, who kind of led the media team before that. And he came up with the idea for Spider-Man basketball. The first episode of Spider-Man basketball gave us 1 million subscribers in one day.
Wow.
We had a crazy viral spike, and that's what made it a business overnight. So yeah, I've always actually been blessed to have great team members for sure. So I definitely can't take the credit, you know, the all-inclusive credit as to why it's where it's at today. Hugely relying upon my team. So it's been awesome.
Now, the question I want to know, because you guys had so much of a following, you were so popular, you know, on TV. I mean, you were selling out arenas worldwide, going places. Tell us a little bit about what happened to AND1. What was the demise of AND1? Because you guys were on such a high level of play. You were almost like NBA players. You guys were just as popular as NBA players. And all of a sudden, it's here 1 minute, and the next minute it's gone. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's wild how it happened, you know, like we all thought it was going to go forever, just like the Harlem Globetrotters or anything else. Because like you said, even when I was talking to Kevin Garnett, we were in this building just a few weeks ago, and he was like, y'all on TV more than the NBA. You know what I'm saying? We spend 50 times a week on ESPN. So it's like, it's shocking that it would just ended so abruptly in the way it did. But what happened was American Sporting Goods, who was based out here in Orange County, California, they bought it. You know, it was an East Coast company. It was in Philly before that, an outskirt of Philly. And the dudes were more, you know, up on the culture and like they knew street basketball, right? And knew the marketing in the urban street basketball world. But now it got bought out by American Sporting Goods, who owns 6 other brands. And now it's in the hands of some folks in Orange County who really don't even know basketball, much less street ball. Yeah. And then they brought in head of branding from some 2 guys from Adidas and Reebok who were a little bit OG. And they actually didn't see the value in the mixtape tour, which is like, what are we watching? Like, you didn't see the value of the mixtape tour? I remember one of the dudes up there told me, he's like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? We're under a new regime now, new branding, new regime. This is after our contract expired. He's like, you know, the mixtape tour is just a branch on the tree. You know what I'm saying? We got a lot of branches up here. You know what I'm saying? And this is how we're moving. So they tried to scoot to branding of traditional NBA, but they didn't have the money to get the top guys at the time. We're talking 08, 09. So they're literally facing the brand with guys like Steve Blake and Monte Ellis. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like lower tier NBA players, which, you know, you can't compete at that level. And they didn't see the gold in street ball, which is like kind of like, especially looking back at it, it blew my mind at the time. But even now it's like, what? Like, that's wild. You know what I mean? But it was all about just a change of leadership, change of ownership. And I think even since I was with the company, it's changed hands about 5 times.
Wow.
Yeah. So today, Shaq brand and AND1 are the 2 head sports brands at Walmart. And I've heard they actually profit really well, obviously, at Walmart. But I think it took 5 changing of hands for somebody to actually come in and make it extremely profitable, you know, getting that placement at Walmart. I think it's owned by somebody in Brooklyn now, from my understanding.
Wow.
Which was what else you got?
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about teaching some NBA players and then the age check that James Harden gave you?
Oh, yeah. You know, collabing with NBA players is always humbling. It's awesome. My first ever NBA collab was actually one of my favorite players of all time, Allen Iverson. That was my first NBA collab on YouTube. But it was before YouTube had kind of evolved. So, like, I did a Chinese tour with him. It was like 3 games. And it was the last time he ever played, which was really dope. But I asked the dude who was running the tour if I could have a copy of the video, and I didn't even get rights or clearance or anything. I edited that joint and threw it up on YouTube. So that was my first NBA collab. But, you know, fast forward to today when I collab and I get the opportunity to show somebody a move, it's an honor. You know what I mean? Because these guys are like superstars, you know, Damian Lillard, Paul George, James Harden. They tell me they were watching me when they were younger growing up. So, one, it's an honor to work with that caliber of athlete. But then 2, it is an age check. You'd be like, dang, so you were how old when the mixtape was? You know what I mean? It's like, dang, you know, but it's true. Like Damian Lillard, he told me every time we went to Oakland, he was at the game. And Paul George, he was like, you put the basketball in my hands. And I was like, dang. So I just look at it as humbling and definitely the age check. Just like now, man, it's humbling to sit with you guys. You know what I'm saying? When I heard Stacey King, you know, play with the Chicago Bulls, I'm like, man, it's crazy. So anytime I can mix it up with the NBA, man, it's an honor.
Yeah, that one of your biggest secrets that you get a lot of criticism for, and this guy can't even dunk. And
oh yeah, that's casuals. You know how it is. I think we can find every form of criticism.
But you
online.
can though. That's the thing.
Yeah, you know, I had like the one-hand white guy dunk. You know what I'm saying? That was the best
Hey,
I could. I clear, like, you know, just enough to dunk, right here at the rim.
I saw you catch a lob. I saw you catch a lob in one of the games.
Yeah, we got a little self-lob. You know what I'm saying? We could, you know, if we need to. Today, you know, when you get older, though, you think about that landing. I don't even feel like dunk, even though I don't know if I can dunk today. I haven't done it in a couple years, but it just feels like a lot of work. You know what I mean?
So as another redheaded white guy, what do you think about the scalenge with Scalabrine? I think you inspired that.
You saying him challenging people one-on-one because people were questioning his game? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Maybe. I feel like he got it worse than I did, right? Because, like, people thought AND1 players were good. I mean, I know there's mixed opinions, right? Some people thought we were trash. Some people thought we need to go ahead and play the Bulls, you know what I'm saying? Which is, like, going too high. But, yeah, with Scalabrine, I actually thought that was awesome because you never really heard about that viewpoint, that NBA player on the bench. I think a lot of people, even still today, we got that microwave viewpoint, right? If you're not an all-star or a household name, you're trash or you're not good or we're actually uninterested. You know what I'm saying? People, the casuals are uninterested if they can't name you or recognize you by face, which is like wild, right? Because the last dude on the NBA team is so nice. You know what I mean?
Will bust your ass.
That's right.
Yeah, you got to be so good just to be there. Like Scalabrine's a big dude. You saw how he was dealing with D1 players, right? Just playing one-on-one with D1 players, he's getting buckets. Like it wasn't even that big of a deal because he was a great D1 player too, and like that's why he's there. So I actually love that he was taking on those challenges. You know what I mean at that time. But I think that even started a while back. That started after AND1. That might have started before my YouTube career. That was like around 2010 or before. I'm not sure.
Well, that's another marketing idea for you because Stacey asked him. We had him on a year ago. He said, "Did you actually take that high schooler's shoes on the bet?" He goes, "Oh yeah, I kept them." So that could be your next series, taking the shoes.
I actually like that. You know, it always helped the video too. If you like that video I was telling you about, the 83 million. We think we played for like $100. I was like, if you win, you don't have to give me nothing. If I win, I'll give you 100. Cool, but it's like good for that title too. So I do like the sneakers idea too.
Well, hey, what about the dating thing? I know you like to keep that private, but you did that great Joker and Harley Quinn video. That was awesome.
Yeah. Oh, thanks so much, bro. Might have to spark it up again, man. I was trying to actually make it a series, but you know what was interesting? I actually hit a whole bunch of like influencer hoopers up for that video, but they weren't really down. I feel like every girl like talking to somebody or has a crush or in a relationship. And so like, if you go public, you know, people are going to stamp you as dating. I didn't care personally. Cause like, we didn't like date like that. We went on a couple dates, you know what I'm saying? But it wasn't no like crazy serious thing. But I think for the women, it's like a bigger deal. She was a hustler, so she didn't care. But it was hard to find women who are down for that. So I think I need to look a little harder and make it a series, man. That was a good one.
Yeah, it was good.
Talk a little bit
it
about,
remind me of like a Flavor of Loves, right? Like Flavor. That's what it remind me of. We might need to make a hoop version.
You know, talk a little bit about your meeting with Jason Williams, because I've always thought Jason Williams was an AND1 type of player. And I saw a video where you were showing him some different moves, the in and out, you know, the in and out dribble between the legs. And I always thought if there one guy in the NBA could be on the AND1 tour, he would be the perfect guy with the way he handles and passes the basketball.
Super, man. Unbelievable talent. And he was one of my favorite players growing up, too. It was actually like Jordan and the Bulls were my guys. Then it was Iverson. And then like Jay Will was in the mix, too. Those were like my favorite players. So getting the opportunity to collab with him, we did it right here, up here in the gym. It was awesome. And, you know, I met Jay Will, though. People don't even know. We actually met in 2004 at Madison Square Garden. He came to the AND1 game. And he was just like watching, you know, just supporting. But he was actually signed to AND1 as an NBA endorser. And they tried to get him in mixtape games, but like either he didn't show or it just never worked out. And then years later, I was with kind of a revamp of AND1. It didn't work out. It was called Ball Up. Yeah. And he was supposed to do a Japanese tour with us. And then like he ended up not showing for that. So I didn't even know if I could lock him down. I knew we were like, we had respect for each other, but we didn't really know each other like that. So the fact that he just pulled up on us out here, because I was talking to his right-hand man, like, can we make it happen? He's like, Jay wants to make it happen, but, you know, wants to make a lot happen. So I didn't know what to think. Then he kind of like, he's like, hey, we're in LA one day. can we do the collab? And I was like, oh, for sure. Like, let me when and where, and we'll be there. You know what I'm saying? So, so I told him, and next thing you know, he showed up at our place, and I had my team ready to go. And we just filmed like literally like a half-hour organic conversation. For the edit, I kept it a little quicker. I did a 5-minute interview, and then straight into move talk, because people really want basketball from me, and I know they want basketball from him. So it was really dope. The funny thing is, people compare me to Jay Will, but he actually plays different. You know, he's more of his dimes were actually probably his best. His handle was crazy. Like his passing game is. He got one of the best NBA highlight mixes maybe of all time, like the most entertaining. And I wanted to show him those moves that I do, because mine is more like humiliating the opponent with crossovers or between the legs or spin around or ankle breakers. So I wanted to see actually what he thought of some of my moves. And so that was really cool to bring it to him, that he was like cool enough to listen to me, because I couldn't really teach him anything new, but I could show him how I get down and get his thoughts. So it was dope.
Yeah, so yeah, speaking of Jay Will and list of best ball handlers of all time, there's been a debate whether you should be on that list or not. But they say no because you weren't in the NBA. But then one of your teammates went from AND1 and to the NBA, and he's on that list. So
yeah, Ray Frost.
Yeah, big shout out to Skip.
Skip to Lou. Yeah, Skip to Lou.
Yeah, Ray.
Yeah, big shout out to Ray for Skip to my Lou was one of my him and Hot Sauce were my favorite players on the AND1 mixtape tour. I mean, I loved everybody, but those two. Especially, I saw Skip first doing his thing at Rucker when he was 15. It super inspired me. Then when I saw Hot Sauce, it kind of like inspired my creativity from a handle standpoint. So both are incredible beasts. And, one thing people don't know about Skip is that he is a street ball legend, of course, like the prototype and the one that kind of like crossed over into NBA commercially. But he went every regular step of the way. He was a high school, he played community college, went D1, and then got drafted. So he's not quite like some of me and my teammates, where if we were to make the league, it'd go straight from street ball to the NBA. He kind of went that route. But yeah, I love Skip, man. He was a beast. Sorry, what was the question within that? I got
But I mean, I think you should be on the list. But
for the all-time handle list? Oh man, I was humbled. One of my idols from the old school that I had to catch up on, when I was first getting into basketball, is Isaiah Thomas. He was the one who said I should be on the all-time handles list. And man, I could have cried, bro. I was like, wow. I mean, just to be even mentioned, even if the mass audience didn't believe that, the fact that he would have thought that, or that it's somewhat of a conversation, is super humbling, especially because on that list, I would have been the only player that never, there might have been one Globetrotter on there or something, but I would have been the only player that never, touched the NBA. So, yeah, man, I think that's crazy. And it even motivated me to even work even harder. I was like, man, the fact this is even a thought of an NBA great, some people got to agree with this. So I'm going to try to just go as hard as I can. And I made a goal. I'm trying to hoop till 2034 when I'm 50 years old. So hopefully we could spark up that conversation more.
Wait, how about we see your necklace there. You got to talk a little bit about your brand.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to my brand, man. Check out the merch, globalhooper.com. We got a new drop actually coming in 3 weeks. Really excited about. But we started 2017. When I actually went broke and the AND1 mixtape tour ended, nobody really could keep track of global narratives because they don't have social media like today, right? It was hard to keep track of the narrative in a different country. So people overseas still thought AND1 was top of the culture, A-list, going crazy. So for about 3 to 4 years before YouTube, I've just played international games. And I actually, when social media really started to come to the forefront, I started my Instagram and I actually was trying to do a rebrand. I was trying to get rid of the name The Professor, but it sounds funny now, but I was trying to shed that name and rebrand as the Global Hooper. I was calling myself Global Hooper. And because I saw what Diddy did in music and other people who rebranded and came with a new name. And I thought AND1 was starting to be looked as old school. And so I didn't know if that was good at the time. So that's where I initially got that name, because I would only hoop internationally. It'd be like, go play an AND1 Africa game, AND1 Russia, AND1 Sao Paulo, Brazil, AND1 Japan. And that's what I would do every month, play a couple international games. So I switched it back to The Professor because that's all anybody was talking about, and they connected the dots. And everybody didn't even know I went broke. They just thought it was a steady climb, when you look back at it. But when my brand, when it came popular for influencers to do merch, I tried to start a clothing brand that was a little higher quality than just standard merch. So yeah, man, Global Hooper was the name. I just felt like it was a good fit.
Talk a little bit about, when you look at, you go in Chicago, LA, New York, you see guys play street ball and you go, man, that guy should be playing in the league. That guy's good enough to play in the league.
Yeah.
And I know you played in the CBA in Atlanta. Talk a little bit about your team, the AND1 guys. Did they have that aspiration? Did they feel like they could play in the NBA coming from AND1?
I love that you're bringing this up. We actually shooting a video last 3 days about this very topic, street ball versus the NBA, because when I talked to KG, we mentioned it, and it went on a clip on Instagram, and it actually went viral. So there was a lot of widespread opinions, opposite ends of the spectrum. Some people think we could go toe-to-toe with NBA players. Other people are like, oh, this is a joke, man. They couldn't hold a candle to the NBA. So we decided to deep dive it. I wanted to give my opinion and give a little more context. But I got on the phone on this giant LED screen in front of me, which you guys are actually on right now too. I recorded FaceTime calls just like this with my teammates, and I asked them that very question. And all 4 guys I had on the call definitely played at the NBA level, in my opinion, and they obviously are very confident and think they did. But they all are very realistic too. They're not delusional hoopers. You know what I'm saying? They didn't get the opportunity because either they weren't training like a pro, they weren't as focused as they needed to be off the court. Like AO never lifted weights, right? He loved the rock starness of the AND1 mixtape tour, and by the time he was 25, it's a little late. And even me, I was a bench warmer in college. I improved 300% after my freshman year. I got the offer to sign with AND1. I signed. No more college eligibility. So trying to go back to the CBA and IBL, it's tough. I don't have an NBA body. You gave me 170 pounds. You're being generous. I actually weigh 150. I'm like a featherweight.
Oh, wow. Oh, man.
Yeah. So, matching up in the CBA was awesome, but they brought me in as a ticket draw. And I really only got to suit up 4 games. One game I had 27-6. One game I had like 15-5. And then the other one maybe was 14-7. And we won 2 out of 3 games. And that was when the starting point guard, which is Stephon Marbury's brother, got injured. When he came back, though, I was just right back to the bench, and they weren't respecting my game. They were looking at me as a novelty because street ball actually in that time was looked at as bad. So it was harder for my teammates and people to get the foot in the NBA because the NBA high-ups and even players, they had an elitist viewpoint, right? It was like, that ain't no resume for – street ball isn't a good resume for the NBA, which I actually don't disagree with that. But they actually looked at it like it's just a circus. It's not worth anybody's time, and these guys aren't at that level. So the real narrative, like some people say, like, Professor, you need to play Steph Curry right now. That's a fan viewpoint, right? But that's like going too high. And then other people say, like, that dude's garbage, man. Couldn't play against no NBA player. My opinion and my teammates' opinion is like, no, it's actually somewhere in the middle. And, I've worked out with NBA players. I beat NBA player one-on-one. You know what I'm saying? And people would never really know that. That's not a part of the main narrative. That's why I made this video. But, yeah, AO won a G League championship. Prime Objective went to camp with 3 teams. We had a heart murmur. So he got waived by the Magic, and he went to camp with, I think, the Sixers and the Bucks. And then main event broke his leg. He made vet camp with the Nets, but he broke his leg. And so he felt like he couldn't play 82 games. And AND1 was going crazy, so he just stayed with AND1. For me, I played in the CBA. The politics of the game, that was tough. I didn't want to go put in full-time overseas. And, street ball was too good. Like we said, it's on TV more than the NBA. I chose to just go street ball and let's be innovative and go this new route. And, luckily it worked out through digital. I was thinking through AND1 for a long time. But those are kind of my thoughts regarding street ball and the NBA. I think guys on my team, were missing aspects to help them get there, but they could go toe to toe with a lower tier NBA player. I'm not saying NBA All-Stars, you know what I'm saying? There's 2 combos, right? There's NBA All-Stars, and then there's just mid-tier NBA or lower tier NBA player.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion. And that's not every guy on the team. There's all different skill levels, to be honest, but 60% of the team is NBA talent, in my opinion.
Well, Grayson, thank you so much for joining us. You've entertained
Yes,
basketball
sir.
fans worldwide for the last couple of decades. Keep up the great work, and we're going to send you some of Stacey's signature hot sauce that you can put on your favorite foods.
I love that, bro. I love that, man. I'm gonna check out that hot sauce, dude. Thank you guys so much for having me on, man. Stacey, it's an honor to be on here with you,
My
man.
honor,
Watching
brother.
growing up, you know what I'm saying? The Bulls, I have posters and all that. So it's dope to talk to you guys,
Hey,
man.
I
Thank
told
you.
you, we friends outside of this, so you know we can link up. You want to come to Chicago and catch a Bulls game? Let me know. You got my number.
For sure. I love that, bro. Humble, man. Definitely down to stay in touch.
Keep doing what you're doing, big dog.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Grayson Boucher, our guest on Gimme the Hot Sauce. Why don't you tell the folks how they can hook up with Windy City Limousine?
Windy City Limousine provides championship service.
Thought we're going X-rated there for a minute. I'm like, what is he doing?
Wow.
Hey,
Where's he-
I'm trying to get the
Mark.
the women
Caught him off
involved
guard.
here,
He was
okay?
a little afraid.
Hey, listen. No, I'm not afraid. Okay, no, you're afraid. Don't interrupt me again. I'm throw punching you. Making a reservation is so easy. It's a slam dunk. Let Windy City break the full court pressure of traffic and get you to your destination in style and on time. Contact us at 847-916-9300. Again, that's 847-916-9300.
Hope he drove you in.
And what is that?
Usually it's
Star
Windy City
Wars?
limos. There's some Star Wars shit going on.
Where's this?
They'll get you there in style.
Yeah,
no question
I don't think
about
that's a. I don't, oh, there it is right there. WindyCityLimos.com. Somebody had Star Wars up there.
I was like, man, you're
Come
flying
on,
in that now?
Fran. How you sleeping at the wheel, buddy? Come on, man. Oh, man, this guy, man.
Hey, let's get back to business
Yeah,
here.
get
NFL
bad.
training camps are underway, and Justin Fields is impressing people at Hallis Hall the first couple of days, hooking up with DJ Moore for some long bombs down the sideline. I think that's something we're going to see this year, Stacey, the vertical passing game, which we really haven't. I think his second year in the system with Ilnyckj, they're going to open up the playbook, and I think they're going to be a lot more fun to watch. It won't just be Justin running for his life.
I hope not, because you want him to stay stay on the field this year. You don't want him missing any games, getting hurt, running from the football. He's going to have to run a little bit, but he's got enough weapons out there that he can spread the ball around. DJ Moore is going to require double teams. Mooney's going to probably be a guy that's going to really be that slot receiver and really have a lot of catches, because he's not going to have that double coverage that he used to have when he was the only guy. Komet's going to be good, just got a new deal. He's going to be another big target, kind of like a Kelley type of guy, getting down the middle of the field, throw it to his big body, red zone, throw it up there to the big fella. So they got a lot of weapons. I'm just interested to see how the defense is going to be. The defense for many, many years has carried the Bears, even when the offense wasn't very good. It's going to be interesting to see how the defense is going to be, because this division is up for grabs, if you ask me. You got Detroit, you got Minnesota, who I kind of wrote off till I saw the quarterback thing.
Yeah, they were 13-4.
Yeah,
last
I
year.
kind of wrote that off till I saw Kirk Cousins in the quarterback. We're gonna get to that at what we're watching later. But as you can see, I'm not sold on the Packers. I don't think the Packers are going to be a factor. It comes down to the Bears, Vikings, and Lions. I'm not worried about Tampa Bay, because they're having a quarterback situation down there. It could be Baker Mayfield. And it's unsettled there. You don't know how many, their defense,
Why are you worried about Tampa Bay? They're not in our division.
Well, Tampa Bay is still a good team. They were a good team with Tom Brady. And Mark, don't try to, don't worry about what I'm doing over here.
He's
You worry
thinking about the old black and blue NFC Central.
Exactly. You just,
Tampa wasn't.
You know what? Don't ever interrupt me again, Mark. I've been gone for 6 weeks, and I came back, and now you just.
I don't want people to think there's been realignment in the
NFL.
Well,
Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is on my mind. Tampa Bay is on my mind. Okay, so you just jumped. I've been gone for 6 weeks, and you just jumped in. I'm getting ready to throat punch you. I never threatened to throat punch Mark, because he's a veteran of this show and he keeps the show going. Tim's the only one I slap around. Okay, but Mark, I don't. But you're about ready to get slapped, Mark.
He just mentioned Tampa Bay because they got an Oklahoma quarterback now, Baker Mayfield.
Yes, you know what? We're everywhere. Oklahoma's everywhere.
Yeah, taking over the world.
Couldn't tell by all the red.
Okay, if you this guy, man, this guy just jumps in.
So what do you think about Cole Kmet getting $60 million? A Lake Barrington
Good
guy.
job for him.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
And
You hit him up for a loan?
I just did this morning.
Don't you know him? Don't you know his family or something?
No, that's
it's
that
just-
first round pick from the Packers, right?
Yeah. And then he's dating Cole's sister.
Wow.
Oh, wow, they keep it
Within
in the
the
family.
division.
Yeah. And they're going to have to go up against each other.
That's
That's gonna be
TMZ
interesting.
news here from Tim Kelley.
Yeah, we'll have to have Lucas in here the next couple of weeks when he gets
kind of like me and Tim
back from camp.
Tim's daughter. Tim's daughter. She's a pretty girl. My son's a nice looking guy. Me and Tim has been working.
Trying to do that.
We've been trying to do this for years, like little Cupid.
Keep it all in the
here.
family.
Keep it in the family.
There you go.
Yeah, baby, matchmaker, baby, Cupid, roll back your bow.
Well, since you mentioned what we're watching, it's sponsored by our good friends at Biggers Mazda. Their sizzling new Elgin location at Randall Road is the biggest Mazda store in Illinois. Biggers is offering a bottle of Stacey's signature hot sauce with first test drives of new or pre-owned vehicles. It's your choice. Everything from the coolest SUVs to the stunning Miata. So join the fun at 2100 Randall Road in Elgin at Biggers Mazda. I know a lot of NFL fans have been checking out the quarterback series on Netflix. Woo. Justin Fields was asked in his first media availability if he would consider doing it. He was asked to do year 2, and he said at this point in his career, he doesn't want to bring all that extra attention and bring cameras into Hallis Hall because the Bears have long been against, being part of the HBO Hard Knocks. So for now, Justin Fields says maybe he would consider it, but you've got some newfound respect for Kirk Cousins after checking that out.
Man, I tell you what, man, I've been sleeping on Kirk Cousins, America. Seriously, like his story is amazing on that show. Like it should have just been quarterback. He should have been the only guy they talked about because it's pretty much that's what it looked like. Patrick Mahomes got some love too, but from where this guy's come from, a very unheralded high school player, played for his dad. And then he goes to Michigan State, has to win the job. He's one of the last guys on the depth chart, ends up being one of the best quarterbacks to ever come through Michigan State, and then gets drafted in I think the 4th round after RG3 was the number 1 pick. Yeah, and they take 2 quarterbacks and they play the analysts, the people who were at the draft, and they go, why would they draft on the 2nd quarterback? Blah 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 blah. Well, comes to find out, that was a good move on their part because RG3 got hurt running around, getting his knees tore up, and then this guy steps in, and people don't know who he is. People counting him out, and then how you like that? That
stands out.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, you like that? And he's a very fiery guy, and he's a very simple guy. Like, he's not a showman. He's not, just recently started doing the gold chains and stuff and loosened up a little bit. But they were showing his wardrobe. His wife was.
His wife picks it out.
Okay, you know what? Hey, Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins. You got to cut that out. You got to have some editing control there. Yeah. Man, she pulled out the Ward Cleaver plaid shirts on, and yes, I like when he wears the plaid shirts. And then they show him at the press conference with that shirt on. I'm like, oh my God, like he really wore that shirt. But he's a really simple guy, real, family oriented guy, which
he's
is
from
really
Barrington.
good to see. Yeah, he's where?
He's from Barrington.
Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, born and raised.
Did you know him?
No.
How do you know he's from Barrington?
I'm a little bit older than him, just slightly.
When they talk about the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, you never hear Kirk Cousins mentioned.
Never.
And you look at his stats, his touchdown to interception ratio among the best in football.
I'm gonna tell you what, he's played. You talking about a quarterback who has played the system as far as money, getting franchise tags all the time, 30 million, 40 million. Like, he is really, as a quarterback, and I have a different appreciation for quarterback. When they say, the running backs should be paid, they're going through this situation. Now, they should be paid a little bit more than what they're doing. But I understand why quarterbacks get paid the way they do. Yeah. Just watching this show. Because
the preparation's crazy.
The preparation they have to do. They have to not only know what their team is doing, every player, every lineman, every call that comes in, every sub that comes in. You have to worry about what the defense is running. You got to read coverages. You got to be able to call audibles, get your line set, get your protection in order. There is so much things they have to learn. And then, during the week, it's like going to college. They're studying. They got to, your job is never done. And if I had not seen that show, I would not know that the quarterback has that much preparation. And that's with Mahomes. That's the same thing with Cousins. And then, Marcus Mariota, who's the third quarterback in that. But there is so much they have to do. There's so much on their plate. And then you got to remember this. When they win, they get the accolades. When they lose, they get thrown out in front of a fire squad. So they are the leaders of that team. I can understand why they're the highest paid players in football.
Yeah, Justin Fields, if you want to check the archives in Netflix, he was part of a high school series, QB1, where he was featured when he was playing high school football in Georgia, so you can check that out as well. Another great sports thing you can check out, Steph Curry has got a new documentary film out. It's called Underrated, and it really focuses a lot on his career at Davidson. Bob McKillop was his coach there and helped him develop, into a superstar player. And he tells some really great behind-the-scenes stories. He wasn't recruited at all. Of course, he's the son of Del Curry, who had a long NBA career, now a broadcaster for the Charlotte Hornets. And, you would think that he would have some advantages built in, but the recruiters were not looking at a kid who weighed about 150 pounds, in high school. And Davidson was the only Division I opportunity that he really had. And he went from nowhere, to become a star. And, of course, leading them to the Elite Eight in his sophomore year was a story that anybody who loves the NCAA tournament, that's one of the stories they talk about. There was a lot on his career with Golden State as well. What's that?
Against Oklahoma, right? Davidson in the
they beat Wisconsin to get to the Elite Eight. Yeah.
Wasn't that Blake Griffin though?
They didn't beat Oklahoma.
No. I'm not saying that's who put them out, but that was his final game there, right?
We spanked them.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was the end of Steph Curry at Davidson.
Right.
We put in Steph Curry in college.
Yeah.
We put it into him.
But check it out. It's underrated. It's on Apple TV. What do you got for us, Whispers?
Oppenheimer.
I've heard some great things about it.
I loved it because I love that kind of history and
it's like 3 hours, right?
Yeah, and they went into the what happened to him afterwards, which most people don't know that story. So it's they use the book Prometheus, the other book, The Bomb. Those are two different books.
They said he wouldn't even eat. He was so painfully thin. That,
he lost 40 pounds during that process,
gosh.
and they don't talk about that. But Cillian Murphy does a phenomenal job playing the role.
He's an
From
awesome
Peaky
actor.
Blinders.
Yeah.
Peaky Blinders.
There's a big cast in this, and it's hard to recognize some of the people. It takes a minute. Like I know this guy, but like Robert Downey Jr. plays a 67-year-old senator, and they do a great makeup job on him. And excellent film.
But it's coming behind the Barbie movie for a box office.
Barbie,
receipt.
yes,
Right.
Barbie.
That shows,
Yes.
That's the state of America for you.
So we're going to do a
Barbie.
show trip. We'll check out the Barbie movie, or maybe not.
No. I mean, I've seen a few Barbie movies, but they were not.
They were rated differently?
They were rated differently. And Barbie didn't look like the Barbie in the pink. No.
It's funny. You're seeing celebrities nationwide going with the whole Barbie theme.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
It's been fun to see. So that's another thing that you can check out. It's been really interesting to see some big movies coming out late in the summer with Oppenheimer, and then the latest Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise.
Mission Impossible.
Yeah, it's
Looking forward to
Still
that.
doing all his stunts. Yeah. So there's some recommendations for you to check it out as we're in the dead period of the NBA, but the NFL is about to start. Won't be long before we have some preseason games. Looking forward to that opening game. It'll be the Bears and the Packers, so a great way to start the NFL regular season. Want to thank the great Sriracha crew for their hard work this week. Want to thank our guy Grayson Boucher, the professor, for joining us, and Timmy Whispers for having 100 questions at the ready.
Hey.
America, hold up! Before we can get off and leave, this was an all-time record for Timmy Whispers.
Yeah.
We've been doing this podcast for 3 years, and I think he's got a total of 6 questions total in 3 years. That's why we call him Timmy Whispers. He set a record today, 20 questions. And if you saw the YouTube, I'm getting ready to ask the professor a question. As I get ready to open my mouth, he asked another question. Let's talk about the jewelry. Wow.
Yeah.
But I was impressed. It's impressed. We knew he could talk. We just didn't know when it was going to be.
Whispers will be putting in his order for merchandise and jewelry from the professor.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, it's on its way.
And Mark, we're going to have a question limit for him because he just went. Now he's going to start thinking he can just ask 20 questions.
So we got Snoop Dogg and Kobe Bryant. We're going to have the professor now in the middle.
Yes,
Yeah, that's been ordered.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. Well, thank you so much for listening and watching. We'll be back with a new show next week. A special guest. We're going to talk a lot of football next week. Jeff Joniak, the voice of the Chicago Bears, will be our special guest. So make your plans to join us next week for a brand new edition of the Give Me the Hot Sauce podcast. Ben, time to take us out of here.
Drive home safely, Chicago. Beep, beep.